Last week, when we were together discussing antique, vintage, retro, we threw in a little boho. And I'd like to pick up that thread this week because last week, all we did was we discussed where the term boho came from and generally what it meant. So this week, let's talk about boho as a decorating style. Let's take a look and see if it would work for us. Okay, I'll be right back. All right, when we were discussing boho last week, one of the things, stop for a sec. When we were discussing boho last week, we talked about the origin of the term, where it came from. It started off in Czechoslovakia, which is now the Czech Republic, migrated, philosophically of course, migrated to a French community that was largely populated by Romany gypsies, whom the French confused with Bohemians from Czechoslovakia, and the collection of artists and writers and musicians who lived in that Romany community. And they were your classic starving artists. They were dirt poor, living on a shoestring, and they somehow became confused with the Romany gypsies, who were confused with the Bohemians. This is the French. Just keep that in mind. As I've said many times before, they are French. I cannot explain them. I watch it happen. I don't know how. So Bohemian made the journey from Czechoslovakia to France and attached itself to lifestyle of starving writers and poets, some of the most brilliant minds in art and literature in the last 2 centuries spent time among the Bohemians, and including people like Mark Twain, who you wouldn't suspect would have had a Bohemian connection. Oh, yes. So this is who gave us this term boho. And you can see the impoverished connection. You can see the artistic connection in the style as it exists today. And as I said last week, I'm going to say this again. I believe that the name boho will win out on the name wars, and that shabby chic and Paris apartment and 21st century eclecticism, whatever, they are all going to fade away, and the term that survives and rises to the surface is going to be boho. So let's talk a little bit about what boho is, and then I'm going to show you some pictures. So boho is eclectic, and that's our word for the day. Eclectic is a wonderful word. It comes from the Greek, and about 2,500 years ago, when the Greek philosophers were in their glory, there were about 15 schools of philosophy. And if you were a Greek philosopher, you had to belong to one of those schools. You were an adherent of the Epicureans or the Pythagoreans. And so your philosophy had to fall strictly in line with one of these schools until the Eclectics came along. And they said, no, I like a little bit of Stoicism, and maybe I want some pragmatism, or maybe I'll trade the pragmatism for some Epicureanism. Oh, Hellenistic Judaism, that looks good. And they molded their own philosophies out of the existing philosophies. The most famous proponent of eclecticism was the famous Roman orator Cicero. We've all heard of him, and he was an eclectic. So it just goes to show you it wasn't a fringe movement. It had become very mainstream. That was the first century BCE, had become very mainstream by then. So eclectic, the word itself means to pick out, to choose, because the eclectic philosophers were picking out what they wanted from the various schools of thought and creating something unique to them. Now, the word eclectic still means to pick and choose from a variety of sources, but it's no longer confined to philosophy. You can have a musician with an eclectic repertoire, somebody who is playing with a country western band on Wednesday night and playing with a concert orchestra on Saturday afternoon. It happens. Personally, I consider my taste very eclectic. And I look around me and I see Eastlake Chinese pieces. The chair behind me, wait, this way. The chair behind me is mid-century modern. The bookcase, this way, Eastlake. The lamp behind the chair, Deco. There we go. The piece on the wall is a Chinese window screen, and it's right next to a watercolor. No, wait. There, a watercolor of Boston Common. No, Boston Public Gardens. My apologies. Boston Public Gardens. Eclectic. My style is not boho, although I've always said I am just too passionate shy of boho. Maybe I'll get there eventually. So before we get into the pictures, let's talk about what advantages boho style has, so that when you look at the pictures, you can start pulling out saying, okay, I can see this, I can see that. Because we are collectors, some of us are resellers, some of us are hoarders. All right, fine, we'll call it what it is. Some of us are hoarders, but remember my motto, as long as it's in a pretty box, it's not hoarding. So we get away with it. We love our stuff. We love different stuff. There are very, very few of us go out to the antique shops and the thrift stores and say, I'm not getting anything that isn't mid-century modern. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm an Art Deco collector. Let me just pass this by. No, we pick what we like. It doesn't matter where it comes from. So boho design doesn't just embrace eclecticism. It revels in it. It celebrates it. So that's one of the reasons I think it appeals to folks like us who like a wide variety of things. It has some other advantages too. It's a very comfortable style. We've all been into homes where you walk into the living room and you look around and you say, well, if I dared to sit down on any of this lovely furniture, I'm sure I would not be in the least comfortable. Boho is exactly the opposite. It's chairs and throws and poofs and pillows and just snuggle in and just cocoon yourself in your space. And because it's your space, because you're surrounded by the colors and the objects that you love, it's also emotionally comfortable. And interestingly enough, it's easy to maintain. And I know that seems counterintuitive because most of us think that those wonderful, sleek, industrial chic or minimalist environments are the easy ones to clean. No, they're not, because they have to be kept spotless at all times. You bring somebody into your minimalist home, and if you have made the mistake of leaving your coffee cup on your coffee table, which, by the way, is what your coffee table is for, hence coffee table for the coffee cup, people are going to look around, see the coffee cup, and they're just going to think, what a pig. Because these rooms have got to be maintained. If you have a boho room, all you have to do is just shove the newspapers under the sofa, grab the cups, clean, because it's cluttered. The clutter is not out of place. The clutter is meant to be there. And for most of us, a little bit of clutter is just the way we live. I know it's the way I live. I live with a little bit of clutter. That's just the way my life is. So it's a very easy to maintain sort of environment. And it's also easy to change up. If you have grandma's tea set on the coffee table, and after a few months you think, that was fine when it was summer and all those summer flowers on the teacups, but it's getting to be fall. I want something different. Bang. Grandma's teacup into the box. Remember, if it's in the box, it's not hoarding. Something else comes out. Couldn't be easier. Beautifully easy to change up. Storage. Storage is another thing. Most of my favorite boho rooms incorporate a lot of unusual storage pieces into them. For example, you go into your standard living room and there's a console table up against the wall. You go into a boho room, that console table is much more likely to be an interesting old dresser. The coffee table is much more likely to be an old chest or an old trunk. Again, plenty of storage. I have even seen, and I do love this, I keep saying one of these days I'm going to get some suitcases and do it myself, a stack of suitcases next to a chair serving as a side table. Imagine how much stuff you could stick in those suitcases. Oh, hoarder heaven. And it's a personal design style. It's your statement. No one's ever going to walk into your boho room and say, oh, I was just in a place like this last week. No, they were not. No. They may have been in another boho room last week, but it's not going to be just like yours because yours is personal. It's the stuff you own, the stuff you love, the stuff that has meaning for you, the things you picked up on vacation, your kids' artwork, an old throw you got from your grandmother. Personal. And I think the biggest thing for folks like us is it's cheap. This is not about fancy new furniture from the Ethan Allen showroom or who is it? It's not Ethan Allen anymore. I don't know who it is. Baker's. Not fancy stuff from the Baker's showroom. And I know people who shop like that. I really do. They'll walk into a place like Baker and say, I want that room. They bring home all of the furniture in that little vignette they've seen on the showroom floor, and that becomes their room. Well, first of all, that's wildly expensive. And second, oh, good heavens, have a little more confidence in your own taste. Boho is cheap. It's all about used stuff, repurposed stuff, salvage stuff. And a lot of the stuff that you want to put into your room are things that you can salvage, refinish, repurpose all by yourself. So let's take a look at some pictures of some boho rooms before we go any further. And I have chosen these pictures eclectically for you, tried to get you the widest possible variety of different interpretations of boho. There are a few rooms that really strongly resonate with me, but that's not why I chose them, because if I only chose the rooms that resonated with me, you would just be seeing the version of boho I like most. I want you to see all the versions that are out there. So take a look and notice the different feel of the different rooms, and then we will pick this up. Okay, so that's boho. Now, if you saw anything that appeals to you, maybe we should give this some thought. And even if you didn't, because I'm going to go ahead anyway for the few people who are saying to themselves, oh, yummy, I want. What we're going to talk about is essentially basic design theory that you can use in any room you want to create. So that's what's in it for those of you who do not want to create a boho room or add boho touches to your existing room. You may want to take this information in a totally different direction, but I'm going to give it to you. All right. When you are looking to redesign a room, one of the easiest tricks I know is mentally take everything out of your room. You don't have to physically move anything out. Sometimes, frankly, if your room is very cluttered or if you're profoundly unhappy with it, it might be a good idea to take everything out. But also keep in mind, I read this study about 20 years ago. 80% of American homeowners are dissatisfied with what their homes look like, what the interior design looks like. 80%. Now, when they do a survey like that, it's folks like us, it's middle America, because they're talking about homeowners, so they are not talking about the portion of the population that is economically disadvantaged and therefore could be assumed for reasons of economy alone to be dissatisfied with where they are living. They're also not talking about the upper echelons of society. They don't take surveys. They pay other people to take surveys for them. That's how it works. The rich are not like us. It's folks like us. 4 out of 5 of us do not like how we are living. We don't like our rooms. They're making us actively uncomfortable. That's pretty sad. So let's take a look at this. Mentally pull everything out of your room until you are left with your box. With boho, we're going to start with the floor. One of the things you see in boho rooms, one after another, is Oriental rugs. Now I know you're sitting back and you're saying, Sue, you said this was cheap. I do not have $5,000 for an antique Isfahan rug. Okay, I gotcha. There are some really, really good Oriental style rugs out there that you can get. You can even get them at Walmart, but I'm thinking places like Overstock, Wayfair, a lot of the rug companies, go online, you can see them. If that's a look you like, you can absolutely get it on the cheap. You can also pick up rugs, old Wiltons. Wilton was a manufacturer of Oriental look rugs more than 100 years ago. And Wilton rugs were sort of faux Oriental rugs that were very, very common in this country. And keep in mind, a little worn and a little shabby is not a bad thing in your boho room. You can get rugs like that so inexpensively, even large ones, full-size room rugs. But if you're doing boho, you do not need that 9 by 12 rug. You can go off with a couple of smaller rugs, overlap them. I've seen that done so effectively. And, just lay them around, one on an angle. Just let your imagination go to work for you. It's a very inexpensive way to do floor covering. Must you have an Oriental rug in your boho room? No, of course not. You can have anything you want. This is your room. The whole point is you decide. And if you don't happen to like area rugs, if you would prefer a nice, clean hardwood floor or tile or marble or concrete, it's whatever you want. But that's where you start. You start with the floor and figure out how you're going to do that. And then let's pull in your larger pieces of furniture. For most of us, that's going to be a sofa. The average sofa, in the United States at least, is approximately 6 feet long. King size sheet is about 8 feet by 9 feet. So you see where I'm going with this. Oh, you can get a king size sheet, by the way, for under $20, brand new on eBay. You can get them used for less. You can get them in thrift stores for less. But $20 alone can give you a brand new slipcover for that sofa. You just drop the sheet over the sofa, tuck it in a little around the cushions, pull up the sides, and hold them in place with little upholstery pins. There are upholstery pins. You should be aware of this. They are called twist pins, and I'll make sure to put a link to twist pins. I'll find some somewhere so you can at least take a look at them. You don't need to buy them there, just so you can look at what they are. They have a little clear plastic head, and the pin is curled like a pigtail. If you want to hold a doily on your sofa, that's pretty much what they're designed for. You just pop it on, twist the little pin in. The pin will not fall out. Nobody gets poked by it. The doily stays put. The cat doesn't get to run away with it. Everybody's happy. That's how quick and easy it is to make a slipcover for your sofa. It's just that fast. And this sort of draped fabric is just part of the boho look. So definitely, if your sofa is one of those strange brown plaid concoctions from the 60s, and you would rather have something interesting in a peach or hunter green, get that king size sheet, toss it over. Cheap enough. And while we're talking about the colors, let's take a look at your color scheme, because even though boho is a conglomeration of all kinds of things, you need some colors that won't spit at each other. Best way to do that is just take a look at what your dominant color is going to be, pick something you really love, and then choose a couple of accent colors. You can choose other colors that you really love. They go with your main color, you're in business. If they don't, maybe you can tweak them. And then when you have these colors, you just start working from there. Your king-size sheet slip-covered sofa is probably going to look very dull when it's just sitting in your room with a sheet on it. And this is where you really have boho fun. Grab some pillows. Pillows are a terrific way to add a whole bunch of color and pattern and liveliness. And of course, it's going to disguise the fact that your sofa is covered with a sheet. You know, just a stack of pillows. I personally have a thing for, correct this, here we go, Sweetheart pillows. This one is Army, is that Fort Devens? Get that in there. Fort Devens, Massachusetts. My grandfather was commanding officer there in between the wars, so Fort Devens pillows have a little sentiment for me. You can get those for under $10 a piece on eBay. They come as the cover alone. You just throw the pillow inside. Done. I love them because they're very nostalgic. This is something that came out of World War II. So that I like. That's just me, though. Put what you want. Once you've got your major pieces of furniture in, and you've figured out how to coordinate them, because as you throw your chairs in, you're going to pick up the same colors you're putting on your sofa. Let's take a look at things like your windows. You're probably thinking, oh my, I have to have curtains. Well, they don't have to be curtains, though, do they? One of the pictures we saw in that little collection of boho pictures, I don't know if you noticed. If you didn't, go back and notice brightly colored fringed blouses and scarves. I think one of them was even a dress covering the windows. I thought that was incredible. And also I loved the bright jewel tone colors of it. One of my favorite curtaining techniques is saris. You can go on eBay and you can get used saris. And I don't mean just one or two. You go on, you'll find like literally thousands of used saris for under $20 a piece, including shipping. And a sari, if you're not familiar with it, is about a 10-foot long strip of cloth, about 3 feet wide. That alone would cover any window. And they have a section on one end, a border that's very heavily patterned, usually beautiful and ornate. And then the main body of the fabric will have a complementary pattern. This is gorgeous fabric. And grab them used. They are very inexpensive when they are used. Just be careful, make sure you get them in good shape. And then mix and match. Who said every curtain on every window in every room of your house has to be the same? Where is it written that you can't put a pink curtain on one window and a blue curtain on the other? The way to do that is you get a pink curtain or pink sari for one window with a blue accent in it, and then get a blue sari for the next window with a pink accent in it. They'll go beautifully. You don't even need to make curtains. You get a rod. By the way, you can get rods at Lowe's, Home Depot. Closet poles, have them cut down to size. Bang, nice thick rod. You don't like its wood, get a can of spray paint. You take your sari and you just drape it over to make a valance, and the sari is hanging, and voila. And if you're concerned about the sari sort of falling loose from your beautifully crafted little folds, get some Velcro. And you can get Velcro that sticks. It has tape on the underside. You stick a little bit of Velcro tape on your rod. You stick a little bit of Velcro tape on your sari. Bang, bang, bang. Done. There. That is going to be a boho window. And then you can start looking at layering out your different accessories. Storage pieces. Do you have a nice old dresser? Stick it in there. Do you have a dresser that's not so nice, but it's got a lot of storage and you're fond of it? Whitewash it. Stick it in there. Great thing about whitewashing, by the way, is, as with any streaky paint job, is you don't have to be a perfect painter. You're going to paint it with a brush that's almost dry anyway and streak it across, and voila, how trendy does that look? Speaking of paint, you know what we should take a look at? Walls, because I found something that is really boho friendly and super, super easy to do. Now, a lot of our boho walls in those pictures I showed you were white. I don't know if you noticed that. It's one of the first things I noticed. Most of these rooms were created against a backdrop of white walls. Suppose you don't like that. Suppose you want more color. Sponge painting. I found a couple of great pictures of sponge painting, and it looks like it was done by a child. It's light some places, heavy others. Clearly, this is just, oh, I'm putting the color on wherever I don't know, drunk sponge painting. Hard for me to explain how they came up with those patterns, but let me show you. Okay, clearly, as you can see, however they came up with those patterns, there's not a lot of rhyme or reason to it. Very heavy in some areas, very light in others. I thought it was great looking. It's a terrific way to be able to add color to your walls quickly and easily. No skill. You do not need to be an artist. You need no talent at all to do something like that. And as we speak of artists, let's talk about art. Old gilt frames. My goodness. I know you've seen this because you watch Crazy Lamp Lady. When I go into places like Goodwill, I will grab these frames, $5 or $6. They've got very uninspired art in them, but I'm going for the frames. You pull the art out, you put anything you want in them. If your kid has an interesting crayon drawing, throw it in there, put it up on the wall. A piece of sheet music from your favorite song, put it on the wall. Can't find anything you like, put the empty frame up on your wall. Have some fun with it. Another thing I love is collections of plates. I really find that to be a very effective method of decorating a section of wall. This whole collection of plates. Put up what you like. By the way, when you put up a collection of art on your wall and you're looking for a grouping, the easiest way to figure out how that's going to look is to lay it out on your floor. Look down at it and see whether or not this works for you. So consider this, because this is an easy, easy way to decorate. Now, next thing I want to show you is real world boho, the chair right behind me. I'm going to show you what that chair looks like. I'm going to show you what that chair looks like boho. I'm going to show you what that chair looks like the way I keep it in the room. Here you go. So you've gotten a chance to see the chair, and this is the chair that is right behind me right now. And one of the reasons I really wanted to show you those pictures is because if you will notice, when we started off, it was a mid-century chair. No question about that. This is just prototypical mid-century design. And it's a little on the pink side. It's sort of, I don't know, salmon pink? Some kind of shade of pink. And when I bohoed it up, all I did was just walk around the room, grab a pashmina, a couple of books, throw a teacup, it's just, here we go, boho. Then I showed you what it looks like ordinarily. And that is with the maroon slipcover, which is strictly practical. That's not any sort of effort to boho this up. That's simply because this is also my cat's favorite chair. And the minute that slipcover came off for the photos, he launched onto the chair and said, "Oh, look, you brought me back my favorite scratching post." No, pick the cat up, throw the slipcover back on. But I wanted you to see that by darkening the color with a maroon slipcover, by replacing that pink sequin pashmina with a dark maroon and navy plaid blanket, left the army pillow, and of course I left the leather ottoman, but different books. The first books were Amy Tan. Those are girls' books. I believe, did I put the gun books? I'll have to check the photo. I think I put the gun books on it. Yeah, I think there are very few men who would walk into that room and say, "Oh, gee, I don't like this. All that leather and plaid and army and guns are just way too girly for me." Point being, one of my biggest concerns about boho decor is, at least based on the pictures that I've offered you, it tends to look rather feminine. It doesn't have to. Those were simply the pictures I was able to find. Most of them come from decorating magazines. Decorating magazines are written, as we all know, for women. So they're going to come up with designs that resonate with women. Change up those colors a little. Go to more masculine or gender-neutral colors, and you can have something that is extremely comfortable and not excessively feminine or frilly. You just swap out your florals for stripes or plaids. It's all you have to do. It's actually a very versatile design. I'm giving some serious thought to seeing about making a few changes in my own home, moving a little further away from my sort of traditional eclectic and a little closer to boho, hence scarf. By the way, just so you know, this came from the dollar store. Boho accessories are cheap. One of the best things about them. So I'm going to wrap this up because it's already becoming a little long. Now, I want to show you, because I neglected to do this last time and I should have. Sock puppets. This is our Jocelyn sock puppet, we can tell because of the purple ears. This is our Sue sock puppet here. We can tell also here, Sue, pink ears. And this is our Evelyn sock puppet with the blue ears. So like I said, let me know about the sock puppets. If you have a choice, I'll try to accommodate it. Of course, if I run out of certain colors, we're just going to have to be flexible. And I have another giveaway piece. This came from one of our viewers, Karen Hopper. And what Karen does is she repurposes jewelry. Now, let me show you this. Because, in fact, I am absolutely crazy about this. This is vintage celluloid. There we go. And I will put in a good picture of this. This is a beautiful vintage celluloid rhinestoned up elephant. Really interesting piece. Very, very unusual. Very nice. So this video, just write in, give me that elephant. It's going to go home with one of you. All right. So that is it for today. I think we're going to continue this trend because a lot of viewers have said we want to know about the styles of the past. So I think tomorrow we're going to pick up and start in talking about the styles of the 80s and 90s so that we can recognize and identify pieces from that era. I'm going to give you an update on the schoolhouse. We had 2 congregations of the brethren of local Mennonite churches who came over and removed that tree. I've got pictures. My goodness, that was interesting. They carted that tree out. Turned out to be 3 flatbeds it took to get the tree out, and that was after they had put all of the branches through the wood chipper. Wow. But bless their hearts, through the kindness of their hearts, they just came and did it. Just, here, we're going to do this for you. I was like, wow, that's incredible. What can I pay you for this? And I was like, no, service to God. Bless their hearts. So naturally, I told them that they should take the wood. Members of their church used the wood as firewood. It would have been nice if the tree had been saved for lumber, but hey, it's going to a very, very good purpose. So it will be heating some Mennonite homes this winter, which frankly is the very least I can do after what they did for me. I will, by the way, put up the names of the churches, and I personally am going to make some donations to the churches. And those of you who say, we'd like to send you something, please send them something instead. These are just wonderful people. They're just my neighbors who came over to help out. Bless their hearts. All right. Have a fantastic day. I will see you all tomorrow.